Welcome all of you and very good afternoon. My name is Gautam Datta. I work with Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance Company. With me, I have three very renowned, well accomplished. Each of them have multiple decades of in various enterprises. Let me welcome Mr. Madhusudan Warrier, Mr. Nikhil from APAC, and Mr. Samit Chakravarty from 1.1. I welcome all of you. I hope all of us are on camera and visible to everyone. Let me introduce this topic. I think it's a very interesting and very thought-provoking topic. Topic is unleashing the potential, navigating the multi-cloud landscape for enterprise businesses. As you see, each one of us are from various industries. Most of us are governed by regulators. My request is, please do not consider the views expressed here as a personal or organizational view. It's broadly a global view that we all would be expressing here, because topic itself is very interesting, and to answer some of the queries, we might have to be a little edgy at times. As all of us had been dealing with cloud for maybe a little more than a decade, there are multiple phrases came and at times enlightened us, sometimes confused us. Things like on-prem, things like private cloud, then came hybrid cloud. Of course, there are public cloud, and finally there is multi-cloud. And I don't know what else would be coming in next few months or quarters or years. So let's let us get into our discussion. Let me first invite Mr. Madhusudan and understand what would be his view in terms of in the hybrid cloud context. How is it useful or beneficial for Indian enterprises? I would then aim to all my panelists, one after another, and try to see what's the collective view that is emerging out of this discussion. Over to you, Mr. Madhusudan.
Thank you, Gautam. It's a pleasure to be along with Nikhil and Samit, and along with CXO TV. So, a cloud journey for any enterprise, the way I look at it is really cloud required for you? Is there a use case, or what is the objective of going into the cloud? Whether it can be useful, and what are we trying to gain out of this? So in doing this, basically, the way I would like to look at it is look at the regulatory, the compliance and the security issues, what we are trying to address, how data is going to be secure, legacy, the infra challenges that we have. Will it be easy to migrate your infrastructure and the data into the cloud? Third is the investment. When you're comparing an on-prem versus moving to a cloud, look at the investment in the infrastructure and higher risks. So this is where innovation and scale generally we get it inside a cloud. With a hybrid cloud, just to go back, with a hybrid cloud, what we see is scaling up is much more quicker. That is, anytime we want to increase our storage or increase our processing or compute, that happens quickly when compared to what we have on-prem. The perception of a public cloud has been that data is not secure when compared to the other clouds. So, in my experiences, wherever there have been larger applications where the data is more sensitive, I have preferred a private cloud. But public cloud, of course, non-critical applications, a public cloud is much preferable. And of course, the need for data storage, compute and processing will drive these decisions as to which type of a cloud is much better. So hybrid generally my view, is a preferred one as it benefits the developer, the productivity, the cost, and brings about much more data security.
Sounds very nice. I think you touched upon very important few points. We started with regulatory compliance and those angles where if you get caught or there are some non-compliant area remains, the impact is extremely high. So, very fair point. You also raised sensitivity about choosing between public and private cloud where data is sensitive. Particularly, I think we focused on PII. Fair enough. I think that's really value adding. Let me to Samit Chakravarty. Samit, you have to share your understanding on the context of hybrid cloud. How would it benefit Indian business? What would be your take?
Well, I would first of all like to thank all of you all for having me for this discussion. And coming to the viewpoint on the cloud, the requirement of a multi-cloud environment in the Indian scenario. So I think it's a very important point which, from an adoption perspective, needs to be understood in the right sense. See, cloud is a word which is being abused in a lot of ways by a lot of people from a context. So first, understanding what is cloud is critical, and then coming to the concept of multi-cloud is the next thing. So as mentioned by my colleague over here about that is there a requirement for a public cloud or a private cloud? Is the first thing which any organization or any one who wants to adopt cloud needs to take that decision. Understanding the nitty-gritties from all angles, from security to compliance to commercials, then should ideally use or leverage the multi-cloud capability to make a very robust BCP DR kind of an approach for building a cloud setup. But again, all this sounds exciting, but making it a reality is a very big challenge. It's not as easy as it sounds for large organizations because of a lot of compliances and legacy softwares and infra which you can't do away with. Just keep that. But I think this is a very important aspect.
Very interesting. Both you and Madhusudan did talk about the first and very basic question that often not answered with honesty. Is cloud really required? And if it is required, for what is it required? What is the exact business outcome that one would get? And from there, the rest of the questions or validations should fall through. Very correct. Very interesting. I think it should serve as a reminder to many of us before taking the pill. Right? Yeah, fair enough. And we would come back to have much detailed and interesting discussion on this point, particularly if time permits. Let me now turn to Mr. Nikhil. Hello, sir. What would be your take in terms of any version of any shape and form of cloud? How do you think it would be beneficial for Indian businesses? What would be your views around it?
Sure. Thanks, Gautam. And after hearing views from Madhusudan as well as Samit, who have tried to encapsulate, I was just thinking, and I just went back some 15 years and was thinking that what was the shape when we were executing projects, programs in larger organizations between 2005 and 2010. There were data center in the premise of the organization. We used to always worry that which proxy to buy, which servers to buy. Is it going to be a Chefy in which you are going to put some 10 servers there, and then, or is it going to be one rack server you are going to buy? What specification? How you need to have tie-ups with the OEMs of these server as well as the SIs for implementation and support. These were the things which used to take a whole lot of bandwidth instead of focusing on what are the new innovations and business apps. This used to be our life back then in between 2005 and 10, and then that moved to a private cloud in one of the data center service providers. The life became a little easier, so you didn't have to think of how we are going to have a BMS in which there is going to be a sensor for rat. You need to think of, so you are at least you got rid of that, but still you had to think of the specifications as to how the architecture is going to be there safe to keep your organization safe, and also compliant with the regulator, let it be insurance regulator or a banking regulator. After that stage of going to a private cloud, then came that there is something like a public cloud, and organizations were hesitant. Organizations like and people like me were hesitant too. That we always at that time when public cloud was being prominent, we thought that public cloud means every information is available to everyone. Our architecture, everything on our architecture is shared. And the journey went where we started thinking. Initially, it was the cost pressure that, and see if the cost pressures will take care of, like, because of cost pressures, you should go to public cloud on certain non-critical applications, as was mentioned by my co-panelist. When we explored a little more on it, we found that it is not cost. We found that it is not anything else but convenience plus security. Both together we could manage on a matured cloud. What is so there are positives and negatives. So the positive is, today when I think of putting a bot solution, the bot solutions are available on all the three clouds, which are highly matured. I need to really pick and choose where the multilingual capabilities are much better, where the associated cognitive computing is much better, and I would adopt. Today, when I think of implementing any new solution which requires larger compute, because I need to put models for propensity of so I come from an organization which is into non-banking financial services. So we are into lending to smaller enterprises or micro enterprises across the country. So there's a lot of compute which is required for doing certain analytics. I don't need to worry about the compute. I need to worry, is it, where do I need to go? I think I get solution in all the clouds. Where I get the best solution, I pick that cloud. And because of the majority of these clouds where your conditions, and we have our tick boxes, the data needs to reside in the same country. These are the set of protocols which are required. What kind of stock reports which would be required, monitoring and log monitoring, how is it going to be? All these tick boxes, when I move from 2005, 10 to 2022, 23, I see that all tick boxes are checked in the public cloud and have made our life much easier. And we became from a 60% people who wanted to keep our lights on in our infrastructure, became a real business enabler in last 1 decade to provide solutions which can give better compute, which can give better solution, which can give better cognitive answers to the business problems. I think that's the transformation I would say that we have seen. The negatives or I would say negative, but the area of where we need to think is if we are putting a hybrid of a private and a public cloud, or if we are putting multi-cloud, which we do, eventually every organization will go through this. whatever is good in OCP versus whatever is good in Azure versus whatever is good in GCP, one would or AWS, one would go with a multi-cloud and Warrior eventually. But the difficult area with an organization need to make a strategy before embarking this journey naturally is what is going to be the strategy to manage this movement of your data from cloud to cloud, or do we have at the higher level, do we have a business continuity planning if there is one cloud which starts behaving not the way you would want to behave? If today they are giving a very lucrative price points, and they all of a sudden it's a larger organization, right? They may change their policies. Do you have right fallbacks? So those are the things which need to be planned as a strategy before we move ahead, is what I think.
Tremendous. Many thanks for these views, Mr. Nikhil. I think I will add a couple of more points, because I think we all resonate the point that you've raised. A couple of more points. 15 years, 20 years back, when we had to go for a greenfield implementation, the first thing is first 3 months we'll go into acquiring hardware. That suddenly is no more a discussion point today. For a decent number of workloads which are already migrated to cloud. I think one interesting point you highlighted is the tech team's time. Earlier, significant time used to go into deciding on the tech architecture, particularly towards the compute data center, part of it. Today, I think that has saved to a great extent, and we are probably to spend little more time on business solutions rather than tech solutions, which takes us little closer to business. May not be entirely closed and embedded with business, but definitely a little bit closer to business. Very good point, and I must thank all three of you for putting up specifics that have been very useful. Let me open up another dimension that if we do not do, no cloud discussion ever completes. When we talk about cloud, all of you touched a point of security. Okay. And there could be many other challenges. So let me first understand your views around pitfalls, around challenges that need to be thought through, or you may need to have capabilities to be able to manage it while running it. These are the areas one must look into before or while using cloud or deciding about cloud. So what are the pitfalls or challenges that you'd suggest a regular user or an upcoming user should be aware about? And this could fall on any shape of cloud, multi, hybrid, private, public, any shape of cloud. Let me go with the same sequence again. Let me invite Mr. Madhusudan's view on this piece.
Typically, I'll just go back to the first point that I made. What is the objective of moving to the cloud? So are we able to answer? I think Samit and Nikhil have also put that point very clearly. So unless and until we are clear on the objective, is it just because the world is moving to the cloud? Is there a use case for me to move to the cloud? So the first challenge that I would just like to highlight is the application that we are trying to move to the cloud. Is it a cloud native application? I've had experiences wherein we moved applications thinking that the performance will be better, etc. But in reality, we had to work around along with our vendor partners to make the application sustainable and give a better performance on the cloud. So this is something. So when planning, I think Nikhil and Samit also said about the cloud strategy. So it's important that we have the correct framework. If the framework itself on which the application runs, if there is a flaw there, I think the first step itself to correct that, it will take time. A lot of load testing, penetration testing has to be done parallelly when the application is set up and ready for use. So this is something which will consume a lot of time. And when we do this load testing, it is important that the numbers that we intend that the cloud infrastructure and the application should support is measurable. Because whatever results or whatever testing we do, X number, the actual result might be X minus N. That is something which I feel is one of the major challenges out here. Along with this, whenever we are setting up applications, what I have observed is cloud service providers. Every component comes with a service. So like, it's not like I can just take something and deploy it on the cloud. Multiple services are bundled by the cloud service provider when they offer something. So that has to be totally understood. Maybe it can be a security setting, or maybe it can be something simple like a backup, or how the backups happen inside the cloud. So understanding the complete ecosystem of how the services are bundled together, that is also one of the challenges. And the skill sets within the team also, the expertise in managing a cloud. Every cloud service provider has got their own standards, their methods, their processes. So it's important that we understand what the service provider is also trying to tell us, and we also gel along with that. And selecting which is the perfect cloud setup, whether it's a private or a public or a hybrid, that question always hangs. So depending upon the application, its nature, we have to accordingly select. So this is a big challenge, is to convince ourselves as well as convince the stakeholders that this is the best way to approach it. First, costs are a part. Initially, cloud looks good, but then as and when services get bundled, infrastructure, the components, the compute, storage increases, we see that the costs also keep on inflating. So in such a scenario, when costs are there, it is very important that we continuously review the architecture so that where costs can be optimized. Should we keep our servers, our infrastructure running 24/7, or is there a scope wherein some of them, the storage compute can be brought down so that the cost can come down? Data portability. It is easy to set up something inside the cloud, but taking out data is another big challenge. So the point of data portability coming out of the cloud, it has to be clarified with the service provider. We say cloud is good, but what if the cloud or the data center has got a downtime? So how are we going to address this? So these are some points which I felt that, or the challenges, which the questions that we need to answer when selecting the right appropriate solution. Of course, all these cloud service providers provide SaaS. So most of the mailing solutions, it comes as a SaaS. Suppose the mailing solution goes down, what next? So these are typical challenges that we face. Platforms that, as I said, the architecture has to be understood very clearly. Infra as a service, whether the particular infra that we take, whether the application will support that, or does any tweaking have to be done? And of course, we talked about data security. So having the right security solutions, and which will hamper the operations of the application, is what I feel are some of the key critical challenges.
Tremendous answer, Mr. Madhusudan. I must congratulate you on that. I think my personal favorite is the first one that you talked about. I have seen many of my friends gone into cloud with lift and shift and burned their fingers, hands, and legs, all of that. Primarily because that's a different jungle. So when you put your pet there, you have to re-architect the pet to be stay alive in that jungle. So that's something many of us, many times, not because we do not understand, but probably because there are other pressures, other considerations, and led to do lift and shift, thinking that now it will resolve everything. That normally does not happen. It actually aggravates the problem. And yes, many other points that we just talked about. X minus n is a very beautiful connotation, and compute as it gets added with storage, as it gets added with posts and gets networks, other bit of chargeable service. If it does not understand, it can actually sink the vessel. So very well put. Thanks for your view. That's wonderful. Let me quickly jump to Mr. Samit Chakravarty. The same question, Samit. As per your view, I know Madhusudan has given us a very broad and very detailed view. But beyond that, what's your view? What's your take about the challenges that typically Indian enterprise faces to consider or to maintain cloud?
So I, approach this question in a little different way. So I will, take the approach of, looking at what is the benefit of, cloud, and how is it, looked at in the boardroom of any organization in India when, a cloud is adopted. So before cloud is not adopted, you would be you'd get recommendations from 10 stakeholders saying that, the in thing or the new thing is, you should go to cloud, you'll save money. You're going to do X, you're going to do Y, you'll get security, which is all very fabulous. As soon as you implement cloud, okay, maybe you were, spending X, you start spending, X plus. And, there is a question asked, what is the actual ROI benefit are you making of cloud? What is it you're getting as an output? This is a question which I'm sure all of us have faced in the past and have been, like what has changed actually is a very precarious situation for anybody and everybody to answer this. However, you may get, best in class security, you may get best in class services, you may get best in class uptime, but has the business output really improved? Is there a tangible measurement for that? Like if you did a lift and shift and you moved to cloud, however, your cost has gone up, but the rest has remained the way it is, or maybe there is a very marginal improvement which is not measurable. You can't have an innovation story or an innovation thing you do every day, right? At the end of the day, tech will be running in a BAU state or a agile state. Most of the times, you will have innovation happening at only various stages. So that's something which people need to understand before adopting a cloud strategy, that whatever strategy you're adopting. Then comes in the security piece, which is getting the security bomb in place for your application to fit in for the specific cloud operator or the specific cloud offering is again a very, very important piece, which is not so straightforward as it would have been in an in-prem scenario. Because in in-prem, you would have customized your security needs basis your application or vice versa. So there was a handshake. But when you're going to cloud, the cloud will have a set option available. You will have to do a customization at your application level. And so your application will again need to undergo stabilization roadmap or a change roadmap to really work on the cloud and perform. As mentioned by my friend Madhusudan, that all applications are not just a lift and shift. It is a challenging effort from a security standpoint also. But however, overall, if you go to see, cloud has got its own benefits and it's got its own pitfalls in a large way, because it's an animal you are going to get exposed to, where you don't know everything in and out. Because if you're selecting a configuration, you are not aware of all the finest details about the configuration. You know what is there and what you may require, but it's maybe a requirement you need to add some more SKUs or some more products to achieve what you want to achieve. So it's not as simple as it sounds.
Fair point. I think thanks for bringing a completely different angle to this point. I like the way you brought the whole benefit of cloud to explain the challenges of it. Also, many a times, many of us fall through the crack or fall through the trap, so to say, of someone influential suggesting to use cloud.
Correct.
And not getting in depth of what and why. Fair point, and thanks for bringing that angle. It helped. Let me now jump back to Mr. Nikhil. Mr. Nikhil, you heard Madhusudan, you heard Samit. What's your view? What are the challenges or pitfalls that one must be careful about before jumping into and started using cloud, or in case they are already into it, they should be well aware about?
Sure, Gautam. I would be very crisp on this. After hearing the views of Madhusudan in detail, and what I resonate with Samit on the boardroom discussions, I think a couple of things. First of all, I would really want to keep it very clear for anybody who gets a right message, that just cost saving, go to a multi-cloud environment or a cloud for cost saving, is a myth. So if you are an organization who is growing, you are going to spend. If it's only for an experimentation, one can understand that you can have the time to market, resource availability. Those are the things which are going to be the right benefit. But just considering that as a business case for going to cloud where we are going to save cost is something which is not the right thing. If you are going to save cost on the cloud, you will be spending cost on architects who are going to be managing this in a multi-cloud environment for multiple clouds. As rightly mentioned by Samit, that if we have the resources which are available for a particular implementation or a migration, they would be trained or available to know that what would be the change of configuration they have to do. But many of them will not go deep dive in terms of what are the implications of these change in configuration. So everything is do yourself in a cloud environment. Sounds very jazzy, but when you try to do it yourself in a larger number of parameters as against limited parameters when you are on-prem, or even when you have a small private cloud setup, you would need to be having or investing in the right experts in those clouds. That's the second thing. And the third thing is understanding the security in a cloud environment is very important. In a small setup, you can only open specific gateways, and you can keep everything else secured in your in-prem environment or on-prem environment. But when it is cloud, you should know what to close and what to open. What are the default settings? And because it's a public cloud, even the engagement says that the data is residing in India, but the engagement doesn't say that somebody from outside will not be able to access the data. So you have to appropriately keep your gates very clear. The last, which I would say, is that with all these challenges, because the question is around the challenges, I would say still keeping these challenges together and addressing them effectively, cloud does help, and I would be very vocal, does help in terms of questions which we had in our past lives around, is the data backup happening properly or not? Is the monitoring continuous? Do we need to, are the tools which we had earlier, they are redundant, we have to buy the right monitoring tools now? All those things are gone. It is just pick, choose, and so if you are aware and if you have right kind of architects as SIs, as a partner or as in your own team, then cloud still is great addressing these 3-4 challenges. That's what I would say.
Oh, interesting, very interesting. I think one of my favorite what you also brought into is saving cost on cloud is a myth, because I think those who jump into cloud to save cost eventually spend more, because it's never about saving cost. It is always about creating larger value for the organization. If that had not been the focus in using cloud, then probably it is misled. So thanks for bringing that, and I'm happy that it kind of dovetails to the next topic that we wanted to bring. From your perspective, now we'll start with you, Mr. Nikhil. We'll break the sequence for a moment. Well, your view, your perspective about how far do you think cloud has led to innovation in Indian enterprises? I know it has done for any startups or SMEs, but I'm trying to focus on enterprises. What is your perspective? How far do you think cloud has led their innovation to a great degree? Not an incremental stuff, but to a great degree. What's your take?
Sure. So Gautam, on this, this is an area which brings the excitement and the power of cloud. As you rightly mentioned, for a startup, for a company which is just starting, it is clear and it is evident that the power of cloud is time to market. The power of cloud is low capex or almost zero capex. The power of cloud is you pick and choose and start experimenting. You fail fast. So those are the things which are power of cloud. For larger organizations, there are some things which are still similar. So while there are the first 3-4 things which I mentioned will not be as relevant for a larger enterprise, even a global enterprise or an Indian pure Indian enterprise. What is relevant is the use of what others have experimented and got expertise into. One of the examples I would say, because of your entire platform is on one of the 3-4 prominent clouds, you are able to utilize their analytics computes. When you say analytics, it is not their only compute power, but their models are available for you to run your data and get an output with a binding contract signed that there is a physical data. Also, your organization's PIIs and other data will not go out. Obviously, the cloud learns more while you do this, but for you get up. So let's say for a financial industry, you will, when you are going to run certain models, you will get the output which is your organization's hypothesis, but at the same time, overall financial ecosystem in the country, is it resonating with the overall financial ecosystem? Similarly, when we talk about geographies, so somebody who is thinking not even financial services, but let's say vehicle, which geographies have what kind of roads is something a Google can help them out. So it depends on what business model you have. Cloud has the power because it is doing the same things in and out for multiple organizations. So when I keep saying this is a power for enterprises in the country, I would also add to it that it can become a threat also to the enterprises in the country, because when you are talking of startups, there is a different model we think of. When you think of enterprises have certain secret sources which they would not want. So let's say one of the larger Indian enterprise, if they want to put everything on a cloud which is not like they are not as sure that the data is not going to be used. So not the personal data of individuals, but the overall data is not going to be used by any other enterprise for becoming a competition to them. Then those are the things which can come as a small threat, but largely for Indian enterprises, they can do innovation very fast. They can use cognitive computing, like the one which we talk today. So a lot of people talk about ChatGPT and other. So utilizing those things for the benefit of your enterprise and execute your programs, projects fast and capture not only Indian market, but the global market a little faster than what others expect is something which I see as a very, very important area when we see the use of cloud for innovation. Like people have these tools and capabilities on a cloud where you say no code application development, right? So everybody, you just need to know your business. You are going to be able to develop an app, download it from there, and then deploy it in your unorganized for ABC. So for you, the time to market has become really well. If you were thinking of an on-prem, it could have been a journey for you to do. So those are the things which I think Gautam would certainly.
No, interesting point, Nikhil. I think the point that you brought, that it provides a platform which is same or the same playing field for a startup as well as for enterprise, is very, very important, and that everybody should take a note. At the same time, an enterprise has got data assets. Yeah. So while taking absolute benefit of the AI models or the ML models or any other models, so to say, for example, ChatGPT or Watson or whatever, right. One should be very careful about protecting the asset. So it's kind of little more challenge for someone who has got more assets to gain more value for the organization. So it's fun at both sides. Let me put it this way. Thanks for sharing. Let me go back to my friend Samit. Samit, what's your view? What do you think? Particularly Indian enterprise, how are they benefiting from cloud?
So my opinion on this is that the benefits are very large, and it's cloud as a concept for any new startup or any new organization to build an app or to deploy it, as well mentioned by my colleague Nikhil, is a reality. Earlier, you needed to have a muscle power of buying a data center or buying a data center space and infrastructure, and then you could deploy something. Like today, you can go to any cloud and for a few thousand rupees or a few hundreds of rupees, you can have an application like from a test perspective, from a small deployment perspective, and there are very small Soho-based providers also who are doing very well because of the flexibility and the commercial advantage which cloud provides for, such players. Like, to give a classic example, in somewhere it was mentioned, I read that large organizations today, for doing their compilation for their AI based things for GPUs, most of the organizations use a cloud, because how many GPU rigs will you invest upon to do a compilation or do something? You could use it for whatever time period is required on the cloud, and you could bring back the results, the compiled results, and just use it. This flexibility you didn't have earlier. You had to invest in the capex or whatever for in a very huge way. So it is a flexible solution, but again, caution, you have to be very clear that what is it that you are looking at and how do you want to make your move to your requirement, basis your requirement. I think that will be the key thing. If you look
You remind me English film dialogue. With every little or additional power, here comes the responsibility.
correct.
Okay, so while cloud probably provides you enormous amount of power, both of you have hinted that you got to be far more careful to leverage that power. But yes, both of you also very clearly indicated that there is that positive side of cloud which can be harnessed by business if smartly used. Thanks for putting that up. Finally, let's come back to you, Mr. Madhusudan. What's your view? How do you think Indian enterprise is benefiting or can benefit from innovation, which is particularly on cloud?
First of all, it is a change in the working mechanism. We were earlier, when we started our careers, it was like, come to a particular office, there is a data center, and there are loads of people doing specialized jobs. So first is the change of working mechanism itself, that the key critical assets, what used to happen, be in-house, that is at a much more safer and secure place. So with this, there is better performance, efficiency. Like as Nikhil mentioned, there are pick and choose services which we can take and subscribe for basis our need. And then security also. Security services can be bundled along with whatever we subscribe for. Cost part, yes, just sharing an experience. When I had to remove one of the entities from a group setup to make it run independently, what had happened there was, in one of the instances, we did a comparison. If this company has to create its own IT team and run its show, and at the same time, if it were on a cloud, if we took a 5-year cost, we saw that the cloud was much better for them. So that is why we put the complete infrastructure and their applications inside the cloud itself. Flexibility, reliability, scalability, that is something we experience in a cloud environment. We get it much better. When I talk to the development team, etc., they start thinking about containerization, going from the monolithic approach to microservices. So these are certain things which, by putting the infra on a cloud, we have seen that these sort of innovations have picked up a much faster pace. And finally, the working mechanism itself has changed. Earlier, prior to COVID, I will say that working from home, that was something. VPN connections were given here to the corporate office itself, and that too in a limited way. In a cloud, what we have seen is it has really changed. So it is work from anywhere. We can pick and choose, we can monitor, etc. So it has just scaled up. So some of the benefits that I have seen, innovations, how it has happened on a cloud.
Many thanks, Mr. Madhusudan, for bringing up those tremendous years of 2010 21, 22. Okay. Where many of our business friends who are traditionally unbeliever or non-believer of cloud-based solutions would take care of 100% of our business. They would always say it is 50%, 40%. Became the torchbearer of those platforms. So yes, thanks for bringing the very unique side of it, which is changing the working mechanism. Is a very fine and very fundamental innovation that has happened across. I'm very happy for the points that you all brought today. This is for me very nice session. I learned and enjoyed interacting with you all. So my and I see we just touched one, which means we are almost done with our time. I must thank each one of you, Mr. Madhusudan, Mr. Nikhil, Mr. Samit, all of you had been a fabulous panelist, and I value your observations, your responses, your wisdom that you shared here, and thanks CXO for having all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Pleasure meeting all of you. It was a nice, fruitful discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.